watching the markets move higher. New highs that are set, weekly streaks of winning across the board. What does this feel like to you?
Yeah, it feels a little melt up-ish, if you will, Becky, but for good reason, actually. The economy is hanging in there and doing better than hanging in there, actually, at 3.4% for GDP. Inflation is coming down. We have a big number, as you mentioned, this week with the CPI, but we are making progress. We're down from 9.1% CPI at the peak. Whether it's 3 or 2.9 this week or 3.2 or whatever the number may be, we are making progress. And the combination of better growth, lower inflation is leading to better earnings. 81% of the companies are beating expectations, and we're growing at about 5%. And I think based on what I'm hearing from companies and guidance, I think we're going to see double-digit earnings growth this year. We are seeing revisions higher, and you know that stocks follow profits, and on the way up and on the way down. Right now, they're on the way up.
Yeah, especially if you're looking at some of the technology names. They've had some pretty good runs, some of those big names. You've actually been moving some money around in your portfolio. You actually sold some of the Meta Google. Why?
Well, I made a lot of money in Meta. I was up 150%, and I think it's prudent to take gains. Google, I had bought late last year, and I was up quickly, up 26%. So I sold those both. I still like them very much long term. If they were to pull back, I probably would add them back. But I think that there's more opportunity in Apple. I think it's really unloved right now. Only 60% of the sell side have buys on the stock. I thought they had a pretty decent quarter. When you have 16% earnings growth, you had 12% EBIT growth, 26% free cash flow. They have $173 billion in cash, and they're going to probably increase their buyback sometime in the spring. They usually do, and they're buying about 3% of their shares outstanding per year. And so I think we got the bad guide, past us for the March quarter, and I think the setup is a lot better. So I just think that there's better risk reward in a couple of different technology names versus the Meta and the Alphabet.
What else do you like besides Apple?
So the themes this year, I like housing. I like a lot of consumer ideas as well. Onshoring, reshoring, I think that remains a really powerful theme, and anything tied to aviation. I mean, I know that Boeing has its issues, but they're going to get their act together, and it's a duopoly. And so I think you want to have some sort of exposure to that theme. But I really like Home Depot.
Specifically?
I like the
setup. Just in terms of that, would you buy Boeing at that point? At this point?
I own Boeing. I own Boeing. It's not been fun this year for sure. But I do think when you have a duopoly with Airbus, you have over 12,000 planes between the two of them in their backlog. Boeing has 9 years worth of backlog. So they've got to get their act together. There's no question about it. But I do think that the free cash flow story and the recovery of free cash flow into the next several years will happen. And I think down 20% year to date, I do think it's an opportunity. And by the way, sorry, Stephanie, I also own.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I also like GE, who makes the engines for Boeing and Airbus as well, and that stock has been a champ.
You were saying something about Home Depot. Let's hear that real quickly, and I want to talk to you about CPI too.
Yeah, sure. Home Depot, because I like housing. We're 5 million homes short of homes in this country. We have 5 million millennials that are first home buyers. You talk to any of the home builders, they'll tell you they've been underproducing for the last 14 years. And so I think Home Depot really didn't do much last year because they were a beneficiary of COVID. So you had to get that, to kind of reverse that last year. They've had 4 quarters of negative comps, and they have easy comparisons going forward. So it may not be this quarter, Becky, that we see really good comps, but I do think throughout the year you will see a recovery. In the meantime, their profitability is kind of the number one priority for the company, and they've done a really great job.
So, Steph, really quickly, CPI, we're looking for 2.9% of an increase in consumer prices tomorrow. If it's much hotter than that, if it's much cooler than that, what's the market's reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's hotter than that, I think you're going to see a sell-off. I mean, we are a little bit overbought here in the short term. So, any excuse to take some gains, I think you want to make your shopping list and buy on that weakness. I think you want to have a barbell of, you definitely want to have tech. There's no question about it. But you also I have these other themes. And so I have a lot of names in the coffer that I'm looking to add to if we do see a pullback.
Okay. Stephanie, thank you very much.